my birthday. I'm thinking about it. You never got me nothing.
You
You never bought me nothing in your whole life, Yayo.
That big ring.
I can imagine.
That's not true.
I only been around 8 years and I made it low, so I can imagine how much you made.
Jim Jones entered a conversation that he most likely ought to have stayed out of. Uncle Murda is currently ensuring that he feels regret over it. In an interview, Tony Yayo made a straightforward remark about how 50 Cent handles his people differently from Jay-Z, which sparked the entire controversy. Jim Jones, for whatever reason, believed it was his signal to begin firing shots. He was unprepared for Uncle Murda to reveal the real facts about both sides, because Murda has actually been signed to both sides in contrast to many people who converse online. He's observed Jay's movements. He has witnessed the 50s movements. And the entire internet went crazy over what he had to say. There's much more to this than a few remarks on social media, so allow me to walk you through the entire process. It all began when Tony, Yayo, opened up during an interview about something that many individuals in the industry have observed but seldom discuss. Yayo was discussing hip-hop devotion, particularly how 50 Cent manages his relationships in contrast to other well-known performers.
Yayo talking about, yeah, Jay don't take care of...
I just came off tour.
Right.
When have you seen Bleak on tour?
I don't need Jay to go on tour.
You'll smoke hard coke,
Yo, chill.
He cited Jay-Z as an example and stated that, based on his observations, 50 sort of looks out for his guys. That Jay simply doesn't fit. Yayo described how 50 encouraged the men in his immediate vicinity to invest, buy real estate, and manage their money well. He said that after connecting with Gunnet, Uncle Murda received his first home. He described how 50 handed him his first Jacob watch and cautioned him against overspending. Yayo claims that from the start, 50 gave priority to this type of financial advice and mentoring. The comparison that started it all was made by Yayo. He claimed that Jay-Z doesn't actually look out for his followers in that way. Using Memphis Bleek as an example, he claimed that 50 watched out for him far more than Jay ever did for Bleek. Yayo now made it obvious that he wasn't attempting to offend Jay specifically. Okay? He was simply being truthful about what he has seen over the years. However, many individuals were moved by that candor, and the video from that interview began to go viral. Social media became a battlefield right away.
You spoke about how
Yeah, Jay don't look
they'll
out
look up a Bleak like 50 look out for you.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I just want to clear that up. Hov don't have to.
And then he said he eat his home halal.
You know what I mean? All right. Okay. I'm chewing halal on my own.
He eats on his own. I eat on my own too.
Right.
I go on my own too.
Some claimed that Yayo was merely creating needless fuss. As others were speaking, he eventually said, "What, for years? Everyone has been contemplating." The argument was intensifying, but if Jim Jones hadn't chosen to interject himself, it most likely would have finally subsided. Jim began spying on Yayo as he was having a live conversation with Memphis Bleek. Additionally, he wasn't being subtle about it. Jim began making fun of Yayo, calling him broke and claiming that he still needed $50 to pay his bills. He made remarks regarding Yayo's appearance, telling him that he should see a dentist and that he appeared to want assistance. The goal of the entire situation was to humiliate Yayo and protect Casey's reputation by disparaging the individual who made the comparison. Jim was attempting to act like it was all a joke as he was laughing, but it was clear that he was being disrespectful. Almost instantly, the video from that live event became viral. People were posting it all over the place with comments like, "Jim Jones just violated Tony Yayo." This is where things started to get interesting, though.
On the Jim Jones podcast, he had guest Memphis Bleek, and they shot at Tony Yayo. They shot back, actually, because on the Shay Shay show, Tony Yayo said, "Man, Jay-Z should take better care of his people."
Many of the remarks weren't genuinely supportive of Jim. People began inquiring why Jim felt the need to intervene when no one was actually speaking to him. The initial discussion was not about Jim Jones, but rather about 50 and Jay. Why, therefore, was he under such pressure? Uncle Murda intervened at that point and drastically changed the story. Murda wasted no time. When he came out, he said something that went viral right away. While 50 had brothers, Jay had business partners. People's attempts to explain the differences between these two moguls. Methods of operation were summed up in that single sentence. Furthermore, it wasn't merely an arbitrary observation made by an outsider peering within. Uncle Murda has firsthand knowledge of both circumstances. Before leaving and joining forces with 50 Cent, he was signed to Rockefeller for around a year. He is therefore speaking from real-life experience when he discusses this. Murda demonstrated that his relationship with Rockefeller felt entirely transactional. It was a commercial matter. However, everything changed when he arrived in Gunnet.
He come to the office. I'm like, yo, who is this, Jay? He said, yo, it's shaking me 10 bands if I bring it to you.
That part true, yeah?
2-minute conversation.
That's my man. That's my right there.
50 kept him engaged in music, opened doors for him in the commercial world, and provided him with public support wherever it had an impact. Murda claimed that his ability to purchase his first home was ultimately made possible by working with 50. That is not a minor issue. That is money and guidance that changed people's lives and resulted in true stability. Uncle Murda and Tony Yayo doubled down on everything during a recent interview. Yayo mentioned that 50 has been taking him on international tours for the past 20 years. It's not even about the private jets or the expensive hotels, he declared. It's about learning that 50 shares receiving guidance and learning how to invest and safeguard your future outside of music. Yayo claims that when 50 was grinding and broke, he never forgot who was beside him. He is currently rewarding those same individuals. And Murda was emphasizing that crucial distinction. The loyalty is reciprocated with 50.
They wasn't sure what to do with him at Interscope, and that's why they signed him to G Unit to give him some validation and some, you know what I mean? I remember that whole shit. I remember I was in the W, that whole shit, and you tell him, yo, they about to sign me to G Unit. You did, but
You will be there when he has everything if you were there when he had nothing. However, Murda claims that the relationship is different with Jay. When there is mutual gain, you are present. And you subtly disappear from the picture once that benefit expires. Look, not everyone agrees with Murda's judgment, so this is where the discussion gets complicated. Many Jay-Z fans vehemently disagree with this story. They emphasize that Jay is still concerned about his people, even if he doesn't share everything on social media. They maintained that Jay is a private individual, that he moves in silence, and that making business decisions does not imply disloyalty. Murda was accused by some of being unjust by drawing comparisons between two very different personalities and corporate models. Here's the problem, though. There is a trend in Jay-Z's past that is difficult to overlook. From the start of Rockefeller, Dame Dash was his business partner, and we all know how that partnership ended. Jay used to work closely with Kanye West, but they no longer communicate. Jay has been candid about feeling abandoned, and Beanie Sigel was meant to be his guy. Memphis Bleck has been devoted to Jay for many years, but he hardly ever gets the same opportunities that musicians in the 1950s appear to enjoy on a regular basis.
Yo, chill. You look like you need to be taken care of. You look like you need to go to the dentist. You need to look like you need to brush your teeth. You look like you need hygiene.
Jay-Z is not a bad guy. Bleak is not a bad guy.
No.
I'm not saying that.
You look like you need help. Tell your man.
The DeHaven scenario comes next. One of Jay's closest buddies was DeHovan from the Marcy Initiatives. They overcame some of the most difficult situations you can think of. In interviews, DeHaven claims that after he became corporate, Jay totally cut him off. DeHaven claims that Jay did more than simply put some distance between them. After years of friendship and devotion, he allegedly propagated false information about him and behaved as though they were strangers. That is a very serious charge. Additionally, it contributes to the idea that Jay's allegiance has a limit. And let's take a moment to discuss Jazzo. Jay-Z got his first taste of success in the music business because of this man. Before anyone else cared, Jazz was coaching Jay, putting him on his game and teaching him how the business operated. And that relationship vanished after Jay blew up. Jazz has said this in public, and it's another instance that people bring up when talking about Jay's treatment of those that assisted him in the beginning. To be truthful, we don't fully understand any of these circumstances. There is usually more going on behind the scenes than what is visible to the public, and relationships are difficult. There might have been justifiable explanations for the distance in some of these situations. However, what people notice is the pattern. Additionally, Uncle Marty's observation that Jay got business partners, but 50 got brothers resonates because it is consistent with what many people have noticed over the years. The contrast is obvious when you consider 50's past performance. Even now, the same individuals that worked with him on mixtape videos in Queens 20 years ago continue to attend his gigs. Relationships between Lloyd Banks, Tony Yayo, and Uncle Murda have endured despite changes in the industry, beef and career ups and downs. 50 places his people in films, on his television programs, and in respectable commercial ventures. He's not merely writing checks. He is paving the route for them to develop their own fortune and careers. Tony Yayo specifically discussed this.
Just came off tour.
Right.
When have you seen Bleak on tour? On his own. Jay-Z is not a bad guy. Bleak is not a bad guy. I'm not saying that. I'm saying to you that Jay-Z was all business with them niggas. When Buck up on his taxes, 50 a piece or more. When Prodigy bought a house and needed more money, 50 a piece or more. Prodigy are paying back.
50 doesn't just give you money, he replied. You learn how to think about money from him. He urges you to look long-term, invest, and purchase real estate, because it prepares people for long-term success rather than fleeting celebrity. That type of mentoring is perhaps more valuable than anyone's salary. Yo talks about attending a party with 50 that included Serena Williams, the Kardashians, and other well-known celebrities in a video that has been making the rounds. According to Yo, his first impression was that Jay-Z had never taken him to something like that. Okay, maybe he'd get invited to something. But the point was that 50 makes sure his people are in the room, he remarked after correcting himself. It's not about keeping people out. It's about ensuring that your loved ones are having the best possible meals with you. What role does Jim Jones play in this then? To be honest, a lot of people ask that question. Yo and an interviewer about 50 and Jay had the initial talk. There was no mention of Jim. He chose to leap in even though no one called his name. And many admirers felt that the way he handled it was desperate. Jim received harsh criticism from the internet after his remarks went viral. Old videos of Jim claiming to be superior to certain great rappers began to be brought up, and almost everyone's response was incredulity. Comments criticizing Jim for always interjecting himself into unrelated situations in order to remain relevant were pouring in. Jim Jones runs his mouth like he ran when somebody put hands on him was one comment that was reposted thousands of times. That alludes to an incident from Jim's past that people continue to bring up whenever they wish to cast doubt on his reliability. Additionally, there have been rumors that Jim has a problem with 50 Cent in particular. In interviews, 50 Cent has stated that Jim frequently appears around people that are at odds with him, which causes anxiety. It begins to seem more than coincidental when you witness someone repeatedly placing themselves on the other side of the person you are at odds with. Regardless of Jim's intentions, the important lesson to be learned from this entire incident is the discussion it started about hip-hop devotion. Because that is ultimately what this is all about. It goes beyond Jay vs 50. It's about two entirely different perspectives on how to deal with achievement and the individuals who made it possible. Treating relationships like business agreements is one strategy. When it makes sense, you collaborate. When it doesn't, you go on. That strategy is not intrinsically flawed. It can feel chilly, particularly in hip-hop, where the culture was based on crew loyalty and coming together from nothing. However, this is how many successful people work in every business, regardless of whether the financial math always makes sense. The alternative strategy is to give priority to those who have supported you from the start. They earned their position via years of devotion and effort, which is why you keep them around. You remember a time when none of you were eating, so you make sure they eat. Although it may not always be the most effective business plan, it creates enduring relationships and true trust that money cannot purchase. It's obvious that Uncle Murda supports the second strategy, and he has learned the distinction between the two from his experience. He is not merely making fun of Jay when he claims that he has business partners and 50 got brothers. Having spent years in both settings, he is making an observation. You have to acknowledge that the discussion he initiated is worthwhile, regardless of whether you agree with his conclusion. This is still a contentious topic on the internet. Some are arguing that Jay's commercial success speaks for itself and protects his legacy. Others are citing numerous instances of individuals who were close to Jay in the past but are no longer involved at all. In the midst of it all, Jim Jones is being ridiculed for entering a conversation that no one had invited him to. What are your thoughts on all of this then? Is Uncle Murda correct that Jay and 50 move differently? Given his own professional path, does Jim Jones have any room to speak? In the end, when you reach the top, is it preferable to go with loyalty or strategy? Please share your opinions in the comments section below. If you thought this breakdown was fascinating, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe if you want to remain up to date on all things hip hop. In the next one, I'll see you.